So you're ready to have your first real conversation in Egyptian Arabic? Well, you've come to the right place. In the next few minutes, we're going to build your confidence from zero to, hey, I can actually do this. We'll cover all the basics you need to introduce yourself and ask that all-important first question, where are you from? Let's jump right in. Here's our game plan. We'll start with that key question. Then we'll dive into how to talk about your country and nationality. After that, we'll learn how to ask where someone lives. Then the fun part, we'll string it all together in a sample conversation. And stick around, because at the end, I've got some pro tips to help you sound way more like a local.
All right, first things first, let's tackle the absolute foundation of any introduction. This is probably the number one question you'll use to get to know someone new in Egypt. It's the perfect icebreaker.
Okay, here's the magic phrase. Entamanin. Let's try that. Entamanin. This is how you'd ask a guy, where are you from? It's super common, it's friendly, and trust me, you are going to use it constantly.
Now, this is absolutely crucial in Arabic. You have to pay attention to gender. So if you're talking to a man, you say, enta minain. But if you're talking to a woman, you switch it up just a little bit to enti minain. Can you hear that difference? Enta for a guy, enti for a woman. It's a small tweak, but it makes a world of difference.
So let's break that question down. The key word here is manin. This is pure Egyptian dialect for from where. It's actually two words smashed together. Men, which means from, and ain, which means where. Egyptians just kind of blend them to make it sound smoother. So when you ask into manin, you're literally just saying, you from where? Simple, right? Answering this is super easy. You just start with ana min, which means I am from, and then tack on your country. So for example, ana min Masr, I am from Egypt. Or ana min America, I am from America. Maybe ana min Inglandra for England. Or ana min el Saudia for Saudi Arabia. See, it's a really simple plug-and-play formula. Okay, so you've just told someone where you're from. What's the next logical step? Well, stating your actual nationality, like saying, I am Egyptian or I am American, this adds a really nice extra layer to the conversation. And you know what? The pattern here is pretty straightforward. You basically take the name of the country and just add a little ending depending on your gender. So if you're a man from Egypt or Masr, you are Masri. A woman is Masriya, same thing for America, you'd be Ameriki or Amerikeya, and from Saudi Arabia as Saudiya, you'd become Saudi or Saudiya. Let's just zoom in on that pattern for a second. For the masculine version, you usually add a Y sound to the end, like Masri. For the feminine, you add an Aya sound, making it Masriya. This is a really fundamental pattern you'll see all over the language. Let's just hear that one more time. Masri and Masriya. Got it? So, you know their origin, you know their nationality. A fantastic follow-up question to keep that conversation rolling is to ask where they actually live now. This just adds a little more personal detail. And you guessed it, gender is key here too. To ask a man where he lives, you'd say, Inta Ayish Fein. That 3 sound, by the way, comes from the back of your throat. Give it a try. Ayish. Now for a woman, it changes to Inti Aisha Fein. See that same A ending for the feminine form? Ayish for a man, Aisha for a woman. Oh, and Fein simply means where. When you answer, you just apply that exact same gender rule to yourself. So a man would say, Ana Ayish fil Qahira. I live in Cairo. But a woman would say, Ana Aisha fil Giza. I live in Giza. So you just pick Ayish or Aisha, depending on who you are, and then say the place. All right, it's time for the big payoff. We have all the building blocks now, so let's see what they look like in a real, natural, simple conversation from beginning to end. So let's imagine a little back and forth. Person A might kick things off with Esmak e. That just means, what's your name? And person B could reply, Esmi John. Esmi means, my name is. So, pretty simple. My name is John. And now, here comes our key phrase. Person A asks, Entamain, where are you from? John just uses the simple formula we learned. Ana min America. I am from America. To keep the chat alive, person A follows up with, Bishfin, where do you live? And John fills in the details by saying, Ayish fil Qahira. I live in Cairo. And finally, to wrap up this friendly little exchange, person A says,
شرفنا. This is just a wonderful, polite way to say, it's a pleasure to meet you. Awesome. Now that you've seen how a full conversation can go, let's cover a few pro tips. These are the little details that are going to make you sound so much more natural when you're speaking. Okay, 3 really important things to remember. First, منين is your go-to for from where. Second, and this is a fantastic tip, Egyptians will almost always say عايش فين for where do you live. A textbook might teach you saken fein, but honestly, عايش is what you're actually going to hear people say. And finally, remember, everything we learned today is everyday Egyptian Arabic. It's the real deal, not the super formal stuff you'd see on the news. So, let's do a quick recap of your new conversation toolkit. Seriously, think of this as your personal cheat sheet. You've got entimenain, the answer ana min, your nationality like Mosri or Mosriya, the follow-up عايش فين, and that lovely polite closing, تشرفنا. If you just practice these few phrases, you'll be in great shape. So what's the big takeaway here? It's that you now have the tools to actually start a real conversation and make a connection in Egyptian Arabic. The only thing left to do is go out there and actually use them. So, who's going to be the first person you try these phrases on? Thanks for joining me.